Mallory, did you put breaking news on this?
I did. It is breaking news.
Mallory, we are now about a week away. 1 week from right now, it's going to be game week.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. I'm so excited.
1 week from right now, it will be week 1 of the 2021 Texas high school football season. Now, the games won't be till Thursday, right? But we will have, we'll be preparing for week 1. We'll be in game week.
Yes.
1 week from right now, which is very exciting. Everyone's really excited about the 2021 Texas high school football season, most notably around these parts. You may have noticed we kind of like that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so, you may remember, longtime viewers of Texas Football Today, and by long time, I mean like a couple of weeks ago, we did a segment wherein I revisited some predictions that I made before the 2020 season. And I went about 500, right?
2.5.
I went 2.5 out of 5.
2.5
out of 5.
Not bad.
And so what I want to do is I want to plant those segment seeds again.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go and I want to diddle myself, get my trowel. I want to dig myself a little hole. I want to sprinkle some of those segment seeds in and then cover them up and water them so that then a year from now we can have a segment where I can revisit these predictions.
And you can brag that you got them all right.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so I'm prepared to issue my 5 bold predictions for the 2021 Texas high school football season. Now, before we start, I will issue the same disclaimer I issued last year. I am not making predictions about the direction of the pandemic. I am not going to make predictions about what COVID-19 is going to do. Please go do your part and get vaccinated. It impacts way more than you know. So I am not going to make – these are all going to be on-the-field things, assuming we have a relatively normal season, okay? That's kind of the basis that I'm working on. I'm not going to make any predictions on the COVID front. So there's that. Let's start with prediction number 1. My first bold prediction. Offenses will return to pre-2020 levels of 28-plus points per game. You may remember that we did a segment about a month ago about looking at the impact of the pandemic or what 2020 did to offenses in with the pandemic, or at least we're giving some sort of impact to what the pandemic did. And one thing you will notice is that we had our lowest scoring output in years, in a little more than a decade, when it dropped down to about 27.1 points per game. That's a 1-point drop from the average of a year ago. That's a huge drop as far as, because this is a relatively consistent number.
Right.
It'll bounce between about 27.8, 28.3, around there, but it's always around that 28-point per game model. And the reason it's so consistent is you just have a huge group of data to draw from.
Right, it's hard to get those outliers.
It's tens of thousands of Texas high school football games, and it all tends to that. Yeah, you have some games that are like 70 to 65, but you've also got games that are like 14 to 13.
But there's so many of them that it always stays the same.
It always averages out to about 28 points.
Right.
Well, last year we saw a pretty precipitous drop down to 27. I think that's a one-time thing. I think that is something that is due in large part to the lack of off-season work, the inability to get together and install offenses, things like that. I think offense is going to bounce back. I think this is going to be a bounce-back year. I think we're going to be over 28 points per game on average per team. I think that is my big bold prediction for 2021. We're going to see a bounce back in offense. I think that overall Texas UIL 11-man Texas high school football teams are going to average more than 28 points per game like they have before 2020. Last year was an aberration in my mind.
Well, I think two teams also have had a bigger offseason too, trying to
100%.
make up for what they didn't have last year.
Absolutely.
So I agree. It may even go up
Who
a
knows?
little
Who
bit.
knows? Maybe it goes up to normal. But I think that if you think that if you believe that the drop in offense is staying that way, I just don't think that's the case. I think that we're going to have a return to relatively normal things, offensive output, which is 28 points per game. That's bold prediction number 1. Bold prediction number 2, and I think this is my boldest one.
That's pretty bold.
There will be no first-time UIL Texas high school football state champions. None. Now, we had 3 last year, if you remember. We had 3 state champions that won a title for the first time. The 2 and 6 man in Sterling City and Palmaray, and then Jim Ned. I think we're not going to have any. And here's why. If you take a look at our top 10s that we have right now, less than 50%, in fact, only 2 in 6A of the top 10 have never won a title. Mm-hmm. Only 10 combined in the 2 5A top 10s. Only 5 in 4A. We are, right now, the top 10s, the teams we believe are going to be very good this year, tend to be blue bloods. Those are teams that we think are back that are going to be back. Now, there are a couple of ones that I'll be honest, have me a little bit nervous, okay? Mm-hmm. For example, the number 1 team in 3A Division 2 in our rankings are the Franklin Lions.
Yes.
Franklin's never won a title. So I'm basically saying I'm going to take the field in 3A Division 2, right? Mm-hmm. That is bold, right? But you look everywhere else, the number ones that we have, Mart, 8-time state champions. Refugio, multi-time state champ. Mm-hmm. Jim Ned won their title last year, right? Carthage, Argyle, Denton Ryan, Aledo. We've got Austin Westlake, number 1 in 6A. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we're not, being ranked number 1 is not necessarily me personally predicting you're going to win a state championship.
Right.
But I think that we're not going to have any first-time UIL state champions this year. That's probably my boldest one on this list.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's pretty bold.
I'm just going to go for it. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Wayne Gretzky.
Michael Scott.
Bold prediction number 3. I'm running this one back. There will be a UIL 11-man Texas high school football running back who averages 250 rush yards per game. I missed it last year.
Very close.
I was close. I think we're at 239 for Trevion Sneed.
237, I believe. Yeah, very close.
I think we're going to have one this year. I think that, as I said, I think offense is going to take a little bit of a step forward. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have one running back who averages more than 250 yards per game. We had a couple back in 2019, Kendra Miller of Mountain Enterprise, most notably, averaged more than 250 yards per game. I think we're going to have at least one UIL 11-man running back average at least 250 yards per game.
Do you have a prediction on maybe who that will be? I was thinking, well, I would say Jadon Blue. I think he'd probably be the closest, but since he opted out,
he would have been kind of the star, right? The one
right.
that you would have gone with.
Think.
Generally speaking, whenever so generally speaking, with these types of names, what I've noticed over the course of my career, it's somebody you're not thinking of.
Right.
It's a breakout player. Mm-hmm. It's a guy who's a little bit off the radar. It's a guy who suddenly you're going to look up and be like, oh my gosh, this guy's leading the state in rushing. Right. Like Jonathan Brooks. We thought he was a really good player. He really burst onto the scene last year.
Right.
Kendra Miller the year before at Mount Enterprise. We thought he was a pretty good player. He exploded in 2019. So what I would say is it's probably somebody we're not thinking of.
Right.
That it would be easy for me to say Xavier Wishart at Jim Ned. Right?
Right.
But, I don't think he's that type of guy who's going to put up those giant numbers. He's much more just a bulldog workhorse type guy. Mm-hmm. But furthermore, generally speaking, it's going to be some guy on a team that we're not thinking of right now. So that's my third bold prediction. A UIL 11-man running back will average 250 yards per game. If I get this wrong, I'm just going to say it the next year, too.
You're going to keep going until you're right. I respect it.
Number 4. 5A will beat 6A head-to-head, and 4A will beat 5A head-to-head. Okay?
That's a good one.
Now, you might be thinking, that's crazy.
I already know one off the top of my head.
What are you saying, Tepper? What I'm saying is when the dust settles on non-district play, you've got a lot of teams playing cross-classification games. 6A's playing 5A's, 5A's playing 4A's. Generally speaking, you don't have a ton of you don't have 5A's playing 3A's. There's been 4 every year. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is with 5A will play 6A, 4A will play 5A. I think the smaller classification in both of those are going to win the head-to-head series. Now, I'll say this. I don't think this is necessarily that bold. Because
it happens every year.
It happens pretty regularly. If you go back to, let's just use 2019 if you want to go and get out of a non-pandemic year. If you want to get out of there, 2019, when 6A played 5A, 5A won the overall series. 5A won about 55% of the games against 6A teams. Same thing with 4A played 5A. That you had the 4A teams beat them at about 55 to 60% of the time. The reason that is that these are really 5A teams will play 4A teams, and generally speaking, these are 4A teams that are pretty good that want to challenge themselves by playing up.
Right.
And so as a result, what you end up getting are really good 5A teams playing 6A teams.
Right.
That maybe aren't as good as, or at least not district champion type teams.
Gotcha.
So I think when you, especially in this non-district play, keep an eye on these teams, and keep an eye whenever we have cross classification games. I think that you will see the smaller classification beat the bigger classification more often than not. So I'm going to say on the overall record.
Last year, Denton Ryan beat Denton Geyer by like 3 points or whatever, and they're playing again this year. So you're definitely going to keep an eye on that.
I'm not saying they're going to sweep. I'm not saying every single game the 5A team is going to beat the 6A team. What I say is when
they did last year.
Grab them all in aggregate, when you grab them all in aggregate, the 5A teams are going to have a winning record against 6A teams, and the 4A teams will have a winning record against 5A teams. That's my fourth bold prediction. My fifth and final bold prediction for the 2020 UIL Texas high school football, or rather 2020 Texas high school football season, is actually one that's going to come off the field. So 2022 is a realignment year. We're going to have new districts for the 2022 season. I think, and everybody's wondering where the cutoff is going to be. And generally speaking, the UIL does announce the cutoff numbers before realignment day in February. When they do, I think the 6A cutoff number is going to jump. And I think that the 6A cutoff number is going to be about a little bit above 2,300. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what in the heck does that mean? Like, why do I care? This would represent a pretty sizable jump in the size of 6A, okay? Or at least as far as where that number is. This presently right now, the cutoff is at 2,220. And you're thinking, well, okay, 80 kids, that's not that much. When you consider that the year before, it moved up, the previous realignment, it moved up 30 kids. The previous realignment, it moved up 40 kids. The previous realignment, it moved up 50 kids. The previous realignment, it stayed the same. The previous realignment, it moved up 10 kids. Previous realignment, it moved up 25 kids. Generally speaking, this is incremental. I think the UIL is going to come with a big number for 6A. I think that because of the new schools that are opening and just the way that things are shaping up, I think that number is going to get inflated. And as a result, if you are a big 5A team, I think you're going to stay put. And I think that, depending on what your numbers do, obviously. But I think that number is going to go up. So you may have teams that have cropped up to 6A that have to drop down. Right? You may have those types of teams. I think the realignment number is going to be above 2,300. It's going to be like 2,303 is my official guess. That's not true. I'll say 2,300 on the nose. But I think that you are going to see a jump in the 6A number simply because of where these schools are being built and these schools that are opening. I think it will have to because of the population centers that are swelling and the population growth that we've seen in the state. So my fifth bold prediction is that when realignment numbers and the cutoff numbers get announced, it will be 2,300 or above. I think there's going to be a big jump there. So there they are, my 5 bold predictions for the 2021 Texas high school football season. Hey, me in the future, who went back and watched this to remember what these are. Good to see you. You're looking great. I'm sure everything's going great and nothing terrible has happened. So, hi, it's good to see you. Be nice to your wife and your kid.
I'm excited. I'm excited
to
see your future.
We've just planted the seeds of that, and we'll see it sprout
to grow
into a segment a year from now. So there it is, my 5 bold predictions. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.